Now, you've already heard about the first honoree who couldn't be here. Our second honoree will receive as well the Beyond the Page Award, even though he is someone most of us think of as primarily as a writer. Scott Turow. Who for 50 years has been the guy that all the national media calls up when they have a question about Chicago. He's written 17 books of fiction and nonfiction that have sold over 30 million copies, been translated into 40 different languages. So of course it makes sense people think of Scott Turow as a writer, but if you know him and you know his history in Chicago, you know he's much more. He started writing first under amazing teachers like Tilly Olson, got a writing fellowship at Stanford. He was on a path to be a writer professionally, but like so many of us, that first novel never really seemed to work out, so instead, he decided to go to law school. I'm sure his mother was relieved. If his mother was anything like my mother, she said, "Can't you be a lawyer and write on the side?" And if so, Scott, you did it. Anyway, law school led to his first book, 1L, then his decade as an assistant United States attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, and that gave him the material that would basically launch his writing career and at the same time set him on a path of long public service to this state and this city and this county. He has continued to embrace the practice of law, even though he is a multi-best-selling author. He focuses his legal work on pro bono areas where he could do the most to help others. Scott famously worked to save a wrongfully convicted man, Alejandro Hernandez, from death row, and then he worked consistently to fight and eventually end the death penalty in Illinois. He was the first chair of the Illinois State Appellate Defenders Commission, overseeing the agency which represents indigent criminal defendants in their appeals, and he has also used his legal skills in defense of his fellow writers. He was the president of the Authors Guild in America, took a strong stance in that role to protect the rights of writers as the rollout of ebooks threatened their livelihood and their copyrights. He is an amazing author. I am sure many of you will be grabbing for one of his books on the table. By the way, I recommend, if you haven't been to this dinner before, grab the books now, because at the end of the evening, it's a free-for-all. You've got the worst people getting back to the northern suburbs clutching a free book in their bloodied hands. It's terrible. Take them now. Anyway, but now I would ask you please to welcome and recognize Scott Turow to accept a special recognition for all he has done beyond the page. Scott. The podium is yours, sir.
Thank you, Peter. I've known Peter for many years. The first time I met him, he told me that his family thought the two of us looked alike.
In circa 1982 or thereabouts, Scott was on the cover of Time. And my mother sent it to me and said, "It looks just like you." And we kind of did at that time. I think more recently we haven't, but now I think we're aging back towards it again.
The other memory I had, and thank you very much, Peter and the Writers Museum, for the award. I'm greatly honored. The other memory I have is that I did a book signing reading several years ago here in Chicago, and a gentleman raised his hand and he said, "I was over there at that American Writers Museum, and I wonder how you feel about the fact that, there's no exhibit over there honoring you." And I said, "I feel great about it because all those other writers are dead." I also have to say about this award that when I was asked to do it, I thought immediately of Malcolm O'Hagan And when I first met Malcolm and he told me about his idea for this museum, I really thought, you know, he had the vapors. He was, and I think the fact that we're all here tonight stands to prove that it is still a world where one person's drive and passions can have great consequence. So I don't know where Malcolm is, but hats off always to him. As Peter mentioned, for much of my adult life, I've been blessed to have simultaneously careers as a writer and as a lawyer. And people often ask, well, why do you want to do that? And the truth, of course, is it starts from selfish motives. Writing for all its joys, and it's great fun, as I often put it, to go upstairs every day and play with my imaginary friends. Writing is still a solitary undertaking, and I'm kind of a social creature. And law, for all its failings, offers the opportunity to improve not just the soul of others, as artists think art does, but also their tangible circumstances. And as the years have gone on, I've been able to use my lawyer skills for various forms of public advocacy. Peter kindly mentions the death penalty. But another area, as Peter also mentioned, is the sake of American writers and the writing life. And since we're here for the American Writers Museum, I want to go off into that tonight. I do have to say that when I've tried to stand up for writers, it has not been for my own sake. The very small group of us blessed to call ourselves best-selling authors have been richly rewarded. But I've always been aware of how much plain luck and how much luck has played a role in my success. And over the years, especially my years as a writing fellow at Stanford, as Peter mentioned, I've been surrounded by magnificently gifted writers whose names you've never heard. And that is simply because of the way the wheel of fortune turned. So my advocacy has always come with a huge sense of there but for the grace, and the realization that I would be in the same uphill economic fight that most American writers currently face. According to a recent survey by the Authors Guild, the median income of those who call themselves professional writers in this country is $20,000 a year. There are lots of reasons for that. America's comparatively poor literacy rates, the giant competition from screens of all kinds, concentration in the publishing industry, the Amazoning of the world. And I am not somebody who believes that art and capitalism can't coexist, but in recent years I have been especially galled by the rapacious appetites of our tech giants, the richest companies in the world who have pioneered ways to steal, and I use the word advisedly, the work of authors. And I want to emphasize that when I make these complaints, they do not reflect a petty competition between interest groups. And to delve into the legal for a section, Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution that Peter mentioned empowers Congress to do various things that are indispensable to our government and our way of life, to lay taxes, to create a court system, and also, and now I quote, to promote the progress of science and the useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. That's copyright. And we should all bear in mind that the free exchange of ideas is protected in the Constitution, not only by the First Amendment, but also by copyright, by allowing authors to support themselves independent of the government, independent of private patronage, but solely by the grace and generosity of their audience. And in that light, trampling on copyright is simply un-American. That has not kept big tech from repeatedly helping themselves to authors' works without compensation. The latest instance, and it's hardly the only one, concerns artificial intelligence. Let me get technical for a second. Despite its name, artificial intelligence does not think in the complicated and embracing way that we do, associating images and memories and smells and tunes and language. AI's intelligence is limited to words and the complex relationship between them. And thus, building out an AI model, educating it, is dependent on gobbling up and analyzing as much written expression as possible. That, folks, is why Gmail exists, so that Google can feed your emails into its many different algorithms and make them smarter, something you agreed to in that user agreement you signed off on and didn't read. Without deprecating anybody's style as an email writer, I think we would all agree that the best and most complex and artful uses of language are in books and articles. And it is for that reason that all of the LLMs, the large language models that underpin the biggest AI systems, ChatGPT, Meta AI, Anthropic's system called Claude, Google's Gemini, they're all based on chewing, a term of art, chewing giant databases of books. And the most commonly utilized of those databases are called Books3 and LibGen, cousins of one another. And in both cases, those huge databases contain almost 200,000 pirated in copyright books, meaning that they're used without permission of the authors or their publishers. These books are word for word the same as the published works, except the pirates stripped out the names of the authors, the names of the publishers, and the Library of Congress and identifiers, which is what trial lawyers, as I was and still think I might be, what we like to call a smoking gun. That is to say, it shows you a lot about the knowledge and intentions of the people who put those databases together and the people who have used them. I didn't know anything about LibGen, and then a guy named Alex Reiser wrote a wonderful set of articles in The Atlantic about what was going on with AI, and he included a search tool, and I was shocked to find that LibGen contained no fewer than 115 references to my works, every book that I had written before 2021, many translations of those books, almost all of the occasional writing I had done, op-eds and law review articles, whatever it was. LibGen had chewed them. And of course, as I've already said, neither I nor my publishers nor my agents agreed to any of this. And as a result, I joined with 17 other authors as one of the original plaintiffs in a lawsuit against OpenAI and one of its principal owners, Microsoft. And this is one of many lawsuits across the country against these companies for similar behavior. Now, as you may have read, one of those cases has resulted in a ruling by a federal judge that the unpermitted exploitation of LibGen by Anthropic, the proprietors of Claude, was copyright violation. And in the wake of that ruling, the plaintiffs and Anthropic just last Friday presented to the court a settlement that will require Anthropic to pay authors and publishers $1.5 billion. There are other misuses of copyrighted works by the AI models, but I'm not going to bore you with more tales of woe tonight. And besides, it's a moment to celebrate. The Anthropic settlement is a great victory for American writers, for copyright, and frankly, an object lesson to the companies in Silicon Valley. And standing here tonight, I can only hope for more. But come what may, I'm here to assure you that books and reading and the fight for the writing life will go on. And I thank you for your support of that cause, which is evidenced by the fact that you are here tonight. And I thank the museum again for this generous award. Thank you all.